Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you, and it is time to enlighten the mind, the spirit, give you some sweet dreams and peace of mind, peace of brain. It is the annual weekly financial wake-up call with my man Dave Crossan.
Well, that was lovely. That was right to the point. Thank you very much, as always. And you know what? I think today...
All right.
You know what? I don't think I know.
Oh.
I know this will be
Confidence.
Something that people are going to at least scratch their head and say, you know what? Or something.
Well, maybe they have an itch.
That could be the case. That could be the case. And it's one of those topics that, you know, you think about different things that you have, and I like to keep things organized, especially when it comes to the different investments and holdings. You know, people may have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all that fun stuff.
Sure.
So let's talk about one particular item,
All
investment,
right.
if you will.
Okay.
Let's talk about stocks, equities, okay, and stock certificates. Let's say somebody, and again, we're going old school here. So for a lot of clients that I talk to, they've either had or do currently have actual stock certificates. So think about it. You've got a stock certificate, a physical certificate,
Right.
that if lost, well, it's got to be replaced. But it's one of those things that a lot could go wrong, in my opinion, by holding the stock certificate. What ends up happening if, let's say, somebody passes away and say the family isn't aware that mom and dad had this stock certificate, or it got lost, or it got destroyed, that may be a holding that they don't realize is out there. An ownership, if you will, of these shares. So when I look at that, a couple different things. Number one, if you have stock certificates, one easy way of handling them, I believe, would be if you have a brokerage account, same titling, is to deposit those stock certificates into a brokerage account.
Okay.
And depending on the different firms that are out there, I know with Shoreline Wealth Management, you like that plug? Thank you very much. You know, we're not going to charge anybody to make these deposits of these shares into their account. So in other words, it's a good way to, let's say you have 10 different companies that you own and 10 different stock certificates. Well, just think about that mess. If somebody passes away, you've got to go to these various companies to settle up, and whoever their agents are to settle up to make sure it goes to whoever the beneficiaries are, or whatever the scenario is.
Okay.
Or maybe it needs to go into an estate account if there aren't any named beneficiaries. It's a lot of work for the person that, say, is going to inherit these stocks, inheritance, excuse me. So it's a way to organize, and I like to keep things simple. So number one, if you have stock certificates, I know there's people listening that if they don't, they should check with their parents to see if they do.
Sure.
But take those stock certificates and deposit them into a brokerage account. Like I said, in a lot of cases, there isn't a fee. My firm doesn't have a fee. There may be some firms that do, but considering the fact that it will lessen the possibility of things getting lost or not accounted for, it's, in my opinion, worth it. Here's the other piece to it, too, is let's say we deposit these shares into a brokerage account. I'm just making this up. You have 10 different stocks. Well, what if they pay dividends?
Okay.
Well, think of it this way. If they're in the brokerage account and what is called street name, that's the terminology for it, that now the brokerage account is responsible to collect the dividends. So company whatever pays a dividend. Well, guess what? That dividend now is paid into the brokerage account. And so that could either be paid to the client, it could be reinvested to buy more shares, it could stay in the brokerage account. There's a lot of different things that could be done, and it's simple, because it's in the brokerage account. So any issues, maybe there's a stock split. Well, guess what? If it's in a brokerage account, well, guess what? It's the responsibility of the firm to keep track of it. Records. And here's the other thing, Vin, if there's any sort of distributions, like we said, a dividend, well, at the end of the year, you're getting one 1099 rather than, from the example I utilized, 10 different companies. See what's going on? It'll itemize it all out. Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a good way to organize, because for a lot of people, and it's funny, I will talk to some people that will say, hey, well, Dave, I own, 100 shares of this, 1,000 shares of that, and they have no idea how much it's worth. They've had it for 20 years, and they bought this one company, and it's had a couple stock splits and different things that have happened. Well, unless you actually manually figure out how many shares you have, the current stock price, if there's been any splits, you don't know what that value is.
Right.
With a brokerage account where you're going to get regular statements, and it'll show you have 100 shares of this company. Here's the value as of the end of the statement month, or I should say when you get that statement for the previous month, it'll show you. And if there are any dividends, it will show as activity. Maybe you want to reinvest and buy more shares. You control it so much better by simply having it deposited. You'll know the values, you'll know all the activity. And again, for tax, or when it's time for those 1099s,
right.
One.
Oh.
Because of all the different items are now, or I should say the stocks are all in one brokerage account.
Yeah, okay.
You like that?
Yeah.
So let me step to the side here for a moment.
All right.
So there's something kind of in between, and I guess that's the best way to describe it. So if the street name is the stock certificates that are now held in a brokerage account. So it's now the responsibility of the brokerage account or the broker-dealer to maintain and keep records. Now, there are what are called book entry, and book entry is where it's at, say, a transfer agent. Okay. So again, a little bit better than having a stock certificate because there's no physical stock certificate, and they would keep records at the transfer agent of this company. Now, again, if you have multiple companies, again, there's multiple statements, there's multiple 1099s.
Right.
So do I think having something book entry is better than having the stock certificate? I absolutely do. But again, you have the ability with even something that's book entry that's at a transfer agent where you don't have the actual physical stock certificate, you can actually move those shares into a brokerage account as well. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, think of it this way. If you are out, you have different stock certificates out there and something happens to you and your family isn't up to speed exactly what you have.
Okay.
Well, number one, there could be stocks out there that, either the stock certificate got lost or you don't know where to look for it or whatever the situation, it got damaged. But if you have everything in a brokerage account, clear records, you know exactly where everything is. Also, too, if you want to sell something, you could do it online. In a lot of cases, there's low commission or no commission online ability.
Oh, nice.
If you need to buy or sell, or if you have a broker who's your financial planner who's keeping track of everything, is making decisions or coming to you with different ideas to say, hey, we need to make changes. Well, guess what? It's all in the one account, and adjustments can be made accordingly. Dividends that occur, hey, I'm going to reinvest it, or I'm going to have them paid out, or guess what? I need to live off those dividends. So what I'm going to do is once they hit the brokerage account, I'm going to have a ACH transfer, a direct transfer of that dividend to my bank account. Because guess what? I'm retired now, let's say, and I need to live off of those dividends.
Okay.
You see where I'm going with this? So, I wanted to bring this up because I speak to different individuals that, because of the show that have reached out to me and said, hey, David, here's my situation. And what I always like to do is say, okay, let's take a breath. Let's look at everything.
Right.
And before we make any changes, if we have to make any changes, let's get organized.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on out there.
Sure.
I want to understand your full picture. And if we've got lingering things out there or bad bookkeeping or stock certificates, let's make it simple. Last point I'm going to make, too, is with having a brokerage account for estate planning purposes, if, let's say you wanted to name a direct beneficiary.
Right.
You can. There is what is called a TOD or transfer on death, where let's say you wanted to avoid probate and you wanted these stocks to go directly to an individual. You could name them directly on the account as a beneficiary, or let's say through estate planning, it's determined through your attorney that you should have a trust. Well, guess what? That can be transferred into a trust. It just makes makes things a lot easier. And last point I'm going to make on this is here we're only talking about stock certificates. The beauty is with having a brokerage account, there are different things. You can have stocks, you can bonds, you mutual funds. There are different holdings that you can, and that's just an example of a few different items. There are many other items you can have in there. But again, the brokerage account can have and organize a good amount of these holdings, all in one spot, all in one account number. And as time goes on, if that needs to be moved into a trust, or it's decided it makes sense to have a beneficiary designation on there, or maybe we need to change the title, whatever it is, now instead of going to each individual company to get this changed, well, guess what? They're all in one account. It can be done as one block change for everything.
Oh,
everything.
Epic finish.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. It's a nice way. And like I said, a lot of firms don't charge for it to hold this certificate. That's one thing that we do. I deal with a lot of retirees. And when I see that situation with a lot of stock certificates out there, we utilize the brokerage account for them to deposit these shares. And now it's nice and neat and clean to keep track, know the values, keep an eye on the activity, gives us options for reinvestment of the dividends if we wish, or pay it out, or if we need to make changes, everything is right there to do so. And that's it. And that's it.
That's money.
And that's it.
Boom.
For today. Thank you for listening.
See ya. No.
That is it.
Dave, that was good. That's good
You're
stuff
still
right there.
awake, so that's
epic.
good. That's a good sign. I like that.
Very enlightening. Dave, people can reach the show short time at townsquaremedia.com. Where can they get in touch with you to learn more about all this and other topics as well? Shoreline Wealth Management.
Thank you. Phone number 732-902-7880. Of course, visit us on shorelinewealth.com, or hey, come visit us at either
down.
Manchester office or our Manahawkin office.
Yeah, go visit Dave. He'll be there.
Come on.
Him and everybody.
Come on by.
Dave, thanks again. That was great.
Always my pleasure. Thank you.
We've got more on the way here on Short Time with Vin and Dave as we move along through hour 2. It'll be Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden with us discussing the upcoming 4th of July holiday, some safety for the beach and fireworks as well. We're also going to ask him about other things with the summer and different things that you need to know this summer before you go anywhere. So stay with us here on Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized legal advice. Please consult your legal advisor regarding your specific situation. Stock investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. Dividend payments are not guaranteed and may be reduced or eliminated at any time by the company. Shoreline Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide legal advice or services. Please consult your legal advisor regarding your specific situation.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.
Whether you are in the early stages of investing, getting ready to retire, or planning your estate, you need a financial planner who will guide you on a clear path with honesty and transparency. Shoreline Wealth Management provides clarity through the complexity. Shoreline's system is straightforward. They will understand your financial circumstances, identify goals, analyze current plans, and customize a path to position you to reach your goals. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information today. Shorelinewealth.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Hi, this is Southside Johnny from the Asbury Jukes, and you are listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. And I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you. And joining us here this hour is Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden to discuss summer safety tips. And, of course, with 4th of July coming up, well, next weekend, next Monday, but 4th of July weekend and a lot going on. And, of course, a lot going on, as always, at the Jersey Shore in Monmouth County throughout the summer. So before we dive in, good morning to you, Sheriff. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So we want to dive in on a few different topics here. Obviously, 4th of July weekend coming up as well, but I want to get your thoughts as well on something that's seemed to just happen a lot. You know, technically it was the springtime, but it was a summer kind of activity with the beaches, drownings occurring all over the state from pools to lakes to beaches. More recently, at Island Beach State Park in Berkeley and Ocean County, and of course in Belmar up there in Monmouth County as well. And a lot of these cases just with swimming at unguarded different beaches and waterfronts with people going in after hours or going in unsupervised. Obviously, a lot of the beaches didn't have lifeguards on a daily basis because school was still in session, and that's where I know a lot of lifeguards come from and everything. So what have you seen across Monmouth County so far? Obviously, now we're officially into summer, but some things that have caused concern for you and for lifeguards and just people in law enforcement around Monmouth.
Sure. Every year, unfortunately, we run into this. This year, it does seem exacerbated by the over 10 drownings that we've had in the state of New Jersey. As you said, a little bit, some on the beaches and some inland in a pool and a lake. Listen, those are unfortunate. We continue to get the message out every year. It's important for our residents and, more importantly, our visitors at the Jersey Shore with the height of tourism season, particularly as the weather begins to break in May. There are a lot of unguarded beaches still, as you pointed out. It is important that each one of our residents and our visitors know their surroundings and know if the beaches are guarded or not, right? And so, we're a very parochial state. We have a lot of local control, which is great. However, all different local rules apply, right? So some have guarded beaches, some don't. There's no standard across the Jersey Shore in Monmouth and Ocean County. And so our best recommendation is if it's an unguarded beach, don't attempt to swim, right? You don't have to go in the water unless you're a truly experienced surfer and swimmer that are used to those conditions. We recommend to stay out of the water. If it is a guarded beach, obviously check with the lifeguards. That's what they're there for. You want to check with them on the conditions. Certainly conditions, as you know, and we grew up along the Jersey Shore here. I grew up on the shore all my life. Just the change of a wind direction can change the conditions on the surf, right? So if you have a wind direction change, you may have went in the water and you're doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden there's a wind direction change, and now the swells are a little bit rough, or we have some rip currents. So all of that is important to understand. It's it's important to understand about the rip currents. Certainly, again, lifeguards can detect those. So if you're asking the lifeguards, they will steer you away from those rip currents. And again, those can change with the direction of the wind and the conditions of the surf. So, you really have to be alert. And obviously, we had the tragic scene down in Nortley,
right,
where you shouldn't be digging in the sand that deep. You shouldn't have sand that's deeper than, let's say, knee deep, so that you can't fit a person in the sand. That becomes very dangerous. We see those tragic circumstances around the country, and certainly that was really terrible to see at Ortley Beach a month ago. So, again, it comes down to education and engagement with the public. We want them to have a great time at the Jersey Shore, but we want them to be safe as well. And one of the ways to be safe is to not swim on the unguarded beaches. And if the beaches are guarded by lifeguards, check in with the lifeguards and look, ask them for the conditions.
And beach, you hit on a lot of great points there to start with, whether it's on the sand or in the water. I mean, the optics sometimes of the ocean, especially on a nice day, it looks in, let me just go diving in. But it could be a little bit more treacherous underneath, almost like, a duck in water with feet waggling underneath.
And Vin, you also said a key word, dive in. Do not dive in, right? We don't want anyone diving into the surf. We've seen that. And tragically, or certainly have results of some persons being paralyzed because they're diving into what looks deeper water than it is, or hitting a wave the wrong way. And so we don't want to see that. Obviously, we don't want to dive in. And the other thing I should mention is that please tie everything down. Right, your umbrellas. Make sure that the things are secure. The beach chairs are secure. If you're not sitting in them, fold them, place them down on the ground. Because again, that changing wind direction can pick those objects up and fly them into people next to you. That are also ongoing on the beach. So please be able, to be sure that your belongings are secure. and that they're not going to blow away.
That's a great point as well. They added in, I forget what town it was. I think it's where something actually did happen along those lines a couple years ago, where I think an umbrella just lifted off the ground and somebody got impaled.
Yep.
Actually seriously hurt. I think it went through somebody's foot. I forget where it was, but yeah, that's an important safety tip as well. Obviously, in the water and on the beach, with digging and everything, but also with your personal belongings on the beach as well, with, obviously respecting people's space, but, being smart and respectful of everybody as individuals too, with what you're bringing to the beach and what's around you.
Yeah, it's so correct. And like I said, just the change in wind condition there can change things up at the beach scene. So please be careful.
With regard to what people are bringing, I know some municipalities across the shore have sort of changed things up with coolers and whatnot, especially in the age of different pop-up parties and this and that the last couple of years as well. But what is it that you want to get out there, would like to get out there with telling people what they should and shouldn't be bringing, whether it's obviously residents or visitors?
Here again, you should check. I mean, again, all those ordinances are local ordinances, so
Right.
You want to check in with the locale that you're going to. Generally, they'll have that information on their local websites in that particular town. If not, you can certainly ask one of the many SLEO 1 or SLEO 2 officers. They have a lot of seasonal police officers that are stationed along the Jersey Shore in those towns, and certainly they will help you and guide you through those local ordinances. I will say this, a lot of beaches have obviously done away with drinking on the beach, and as you said, alluded to, packing those coolers maybe full of alcoholic beverages. The one underlying thing we want to get across, in particular in the wake of the legalization of recreational marijuana, is that a lot of beaches are no smoking. And there's a lot of boardwalks that are no smoking. So you want to adhere to those ordinances, those smoking ordinances, because if it states no smoking, that just doesn't mean cigarettes. That means marijuana as well. So, while recreational marijuana is legal and you can smoke it out in public, you cannot do so if the local ordinance signs say no smoking in that particular area. And that is the case on a lot of our local beaches and our boardwalks.
I know you and I have touched on this in the past with regards to marijuana, even before it became officially recreational. But what concerns do you have for this summer now that recreational weed is legal and people are smoking? And we certainly just saw a case in Ocean County where a woman was convicted of several charges for driving high on marijuana a couple months back and ended up killing 2 people on the road while under the influence. So what are concerns that you have?
Anyway? I do think we'll see more of that because, again, as people dive into the use of recreational marijuana and edibles and so forth, I do think we'll see an uptick, as did other states, in DUI, driving under the influence. And so our officers are trained to handle that. We have a lot of drug recognition experts. They're called DREs. They deal with those kind of marijuana and under the influence that are not an odor of alcohol, but certainly use the horizontal gaze, the Snagdis test, as well as other physical tests to determine that somebody may be under the influence, and then again certify that with some type of alka test or drug test, blood work that would reveal that. So it is a concern of ours. Obviously, we tell people if you are over 21 and using the recreational marijuana, do not do so while operating a vehicle or therefore heavy machinery. Unfortunately, as you know, the law doesn't cover heavy machinery from construction crews, and it doesn't cover our law enforcement officers when they carry guns. So,
Right.
There's a lot of open questions still that remain to be seen in that law, some of which we've asked the Attorney General to clarify, and hopefully we'll get some clarification on those professions. But for right now, again, if you're operating a motor vehicle, and not just a motor vehicle, but we think like a car or truck, that means a motorcycle, but more importantly, DWI on the water is prevalent over the summer, and our patrols are out there along with Ocean County patrols. I know Sheriff Mestrinardi has a Marine unit, and we do as well, and we'll continue to patrol the waterways to look for DUI, people that are operating a boat. And if you're operating a vessel, the same law applies.
Also, too, people just recreational bicycles and going around and different things that they could be doing. People think, well, it's not motorized. I can handle this and do this. That's another issue.
You're right. It presents a whole host of issues. So obviously, we want people. It is legal, but we want them to and it's new, right? So this is all new to people. Some may just dive in and try it. Like your first can of beer or your first glass of wine. You have to be cognizant and aware of the laws and cognizant of the operation of those vehicles because those motor vehicle laws still apply to you. As DUI. It's just a little bit harder to detect, but again, our officers around Monmouth and Ocean County are well trained to do so.
Do you feel like you have to add more enforcement because of recreational weed being more active this summer, and especially 2 years after a pandemic started, more people coming down to the shore and to come into Monmouth County, that law enforcement with your office or any of the local police departments or the prosecutor's office has to be out there and looking out for these different signs, either on the road or on mainland?
Well, we do have extra patrol. I alluded to we receive a lot of grant money, particularly for patrol in the summer season, because we do have increased traffic. As well as I do, that tourism increases in some towns 20 to 30% of their population. Yeah. And so that becomes problematic just to begin with in terms of operating law enforcement in some of those areas. But we do have a lot of grants and additional staff on station assist in those towns. Our DUI roadblocks are back in effect now. They paused during COVID, but we advertise those roadblocks, and those roadblocks are back in effect. So that is one way that you probably will encounter law enforcement in one of the seasonal summer towns, is through our DUI roadblocks that are on weekends. As well as I said, offshore with the Marine units. I know our Marine One is out there. We receive a grant every year to look out for DUI while operating vessels out there. So we will certainly do that this year, and we have added more staff to do so, as I know Sheriff Mastronardi has when I spoke with him.
On a somewhat related note, because we've certainly talked about the extent of smoking marijuana, vehicles, boats, and so on, but same question with regards to drinking. Drinking and driving, people drinking and acting out of the ordinary or unlawful on the beaches or at different restaurants and everything. So do you have the similar patrols set up, or this summer some things you're looking out for in terms of drinking and driving, especially in the advent of ride-sharing services?
Yeah, so one of the benefits of having the ride share is just that it seems to have decreased a lot of that. It's different when we were growing up and in the bar scene along the Jersey Shore. Now there are plenty of Ubers and Lyfts and other ride shares that are out there to assist our residents and our visitors that may have had too much to drink. If you're drinking and you plan a night out at the Jersey Shore, please be smart. Have a designated driver, or use one of those ride shares and don't even think about drinking and driving. Again, there are a heightened sense of patrols out there, particularly on the evenings and on weekends. I mentioned the SLEO 2s and the SLEO 1s that help supplement our local law enforcement in all of those shore towns, those coastal towns. Now, we have 22 coastal towns in New Jersey, and they all pretty much hire those SLEO 1s and SLEO 2s. And those are the extra set of eyes that are out there on a Friday, Saturday night, in preparation of that, those individuals that are under the influence and attempting to drive. So, listen, one of the things obviously that it will cause is some problems. We saw a large gathering, and large gatherings, also known as pop-up parties. Right. I like to call them flash mobs, because when you inject alcohol and/or drugs and marijuana with bad behavior, it's a mob. Right, it's not a pop-up party per se. It becomes a mob scene, and that's unfortunate. We'll continue to monitor those flash parties as they occur up and down the Jersey Shore.
I want to touch more on this, but Dave and I have to go to a break. Can you hang with us a little bit longer?
Sure, great.
Excellent.
Great with you.
More Short Time with Vin and Dave and Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden right after this.
Hello, this is Chef David Burke on Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. And if you could see us, you'd know the three of us have perfect faces for radio.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information and start your financial journey with comfort and security today. Shoreline Wealth Management with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you, and with us is Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden. We've been talking about summer safety, both on the beach, in the water, throughout town, with regard to drinking and driving under the influence of marijuana or other drugs. And we finished the last segment talking about flash mobs or pop-up parties, Sheriff, and obviously something that occurred in Long Branch and then Asbury Park, Monmouth County, and of course Point Pleasant Beach here in Ocean County got right on top of trying to go to the courts and work on preventing that. But I know police were still there across Monmouth County anyway recently, just on alert, just in case. And obviously, in the world of these different social media platforms where these things, these pop-up parties seem to get planned and the word seems to get out, I guess you never know when something else is going to get planned. So are you still on somewhat heightened alert for any pop-up parties, looking out for anything like that could be disruptive?
Yeah, well, as you know, we've seen this over the last couple of years. Last year in Long Branch was probably worse than the last one that we had a couple of weeks ago in Long Branch. So I think we learned from some of it in terms of how to position officers and how to ramp up and certainly plan for those events. Listen, Long Branch did the right thing here in going after the organizers civilly, and I think the county will as well. Because if you're creating those invitations, there's and it's a fine line. We want people to come down, have a good time, right at the Jersey Shore, and be free to do what they want to do and enjoy our beaches and our boardwalks and our businesses. However, when you are sending out flyers that say bring your own beer, bring your own weed, and obviously there might be some fights to be had and all of that. We're not going to put up with that here at the Jersey Shore. We have a very family-oriented and business-oriented environment up and down Monmouth and Ocean County. So going after the organizers, and I commend Long Branch. They were in court with several of the organizers for that particular event. Listen, these things cost money, right? If you're ramping up a party like that where you're in advertising and you want that kind of behavior, then we'll push back as well. We were at the ready for Long Branch. Long Branch set a curfew, but here's the unfortunate thing about the curfew, Vin and Dave, is that there were two weddings planned that night at different venues, and people don't really understand that, but they were canceled, right? Or they were disrupted somehow, and that's unfortunate, as you know. Those things cost a lot of money and a lot of planning, and some businesses had to close down, and that's unfortunate. So there's a way to invite your friends to have a good time, but when you start promoting and you start saying bring your own beer, bring your own weed, and let's have some fight action and some other things, that's a promotion of behavior, and it's got a recipe for disaster, right? And so luckily the judge agreed with us in that particular case in Long Branch, saying, hey, here's an injunction. It's not a permitted party. If you want a party that size, file for a permit. There are plenty of things that are permitted up and down the Jersey Shore, but when you file for the permit, all of that planning takes place. We have Ocean Fest, we have fireworks, we have marathons and 5K races and all these other parties that occur up and down the Jersey Shore during the summertime, but they're with permits. Right. And so if you're seeking to have a large crowd, you better seek a permit, because that will institute the planning of the local authorities and the county, as well, the county sheriff and the county prosecutor's office, to go over those plans and make sure that we have security plans for the event, so we can keep it safe and secure, and B, response plans should something happen and we need to send in some EMS or other units into that particular area.
Well, I think that's a good idea, especially these organizers, that they be responsible for, hey, these weddings were interrupted, there's a lot of costs to that. Businesses were disrupted from their business. These organizers should be accountable for what took place and the costs that were associated with it and the disruptions.
Yeah, Dave, I think it was the right course of action because, oddly enough, the statutes are a little weak in this particular area in plan and pop-up bars, the criminal statutes. So going after them civilly, I think, was the right thing to do, and I think we'll continue to look at those avenues. I know our county attorneys and Long Branch attorneys will continue to make the case, if you will, in court if these things happen, and we will pursue those costs. It costs a lot of money for overtime. Again, if I was a business or I was one of those persons with the wedding and that got disrupted, I would sue those individuals too. I would,
Sure.
At the end of the day, permitted use is much different than non-permitted large gatherings, and obviously we discourage it. Unfortunately, social media, as you know, something goes viral and it becomes a real problem for law enforcement in different areas. But we will always have additional patrol, particularly on weekends, with the local towns. And we remain ready with our mutual aid plans between towns so that other towns respond in. And we remain ready with the county prosecutor and the county sheriffs, both in Monmouth and Ocean County, for the planning of such events and the ability to ramp up. As you know, we had multiple municipal agencies involved, multiple county agencies involved with our EMS task force, our rapid deployment force, the county rapid deployment force, county SWAT team, and the county prosecutor and county sheriff. And then the state. We had state police and state corrections there as well, and the county corrections. My correctional officers were there for transportation and to handle those arrests. So we'll continue to have those plans in those staging areas. In particular, if we receive intelligence reports through those social media avenues, that those things will go on. And listen, we want to be sure that everyone is safe and secure. Not just our visitors, but our residents who are there and have to live there full time.
And when it comes to social media, there are different ways that you're able to monitor how these are advertised and how they're actually put out so that you're ahead of it. Obviously, you have been in a lot of cases, but is there a certain way that you go about it to monitor the different social media and how these, advertisements for these parties come out?
Yeah, there's several ways that are done. The prosecutors and our office at the sheriff's office, we have obviously people that look into those social media accounts, and we have what are known as intelligence bureaus. So they look at the intel and focus on that. And as the Regional Intelligence Center, the ROC, the state of New Jersey, monitors for those events as well. And it's a collaboration of partners. We were alerted by New Jersey Transit that the trains were overly full coming down into a particular area with those tickets. So every agency throughout the state of New Jersey, whether it's transit, whether it's state police, whether it's the Home Office of Homeland Security, and the Regional Intelligence Center, as well as the county and the locals, everyone's paying attention to these intel reports and gathering that intelligence so we have a beneficial outcome like we did last weekend. Listen, we had posts about Point Pleasant and Long Branch. They didn't come to fruition, but we saw a brief one in Union Beach. It was again, a little flash mob party. Didn't grow to the extent that it could have. Because the police department intervened as they should have intervened quickly, so that we didn't have that explosive type of atmosphere in that particular party in Union Beach.
I want to get your thoughts. We're talking with Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden. Obviously, 4th of July weekend coming up, and everybody obviously hopes for good weather, good barbecues, good time at the beaches, and having some summer fun. But whether it's party related or fireworks related, what are some safety concerns that you have that you want to urge caution or give reminders to residents and visitors about so that they could have fun, but obviously be safe as well?
So Dave and Vin, I use the usual simple statement. If it goes boom, don't use it. Right? And that holds true with New Jersey law. Sparklers are allowed, and those kind of, those candles that sparkle up, they're allowed as well. But anything explosive is not allowed. Right, so anything that explodes, you're not supposed to be using. And obviously, every year we see throughout the country and the Jersey Shore here, every year, somebody undoubtedly is holding something in their hand that explodes, and it's just not it's not necessary if you just use some caution. And obviously, with the sparklers, keep your kids away from the sparklers. If it's the ones that those Roman candle ones that go down on the ground, the non-explosive Roman candles, but they shoot up the sparks. Keep the kids away. If it's sparklers in the hand, please, teach your kids how to use them and don't touch the hot part of the sparkler. I mean, that's really what kids should not be handling fireworks or sparklers of any kind, and that's what we encourage. Listen, last year, for an example, it's generally the week leading up to July 4th. We see a lot of activity, particularly if there's a gap between the actual holiday and the weekend. We see a lot of activity, and so we had 489 fireworks calls in just a brief 4-day period.
Oh, wow.
Right. So we're averaging in our 911 center about 100 calls a day on fireworks in that brief 4 or 5 day period of the July 4th weekend. So, listen, you got to be mindful of your neighbors as well.
Yeah.
If you have close by neighbors, please speak with them about the use, and don't use them after hours when those noise ordinance apply, because we do get a lot of these calls, and they take up law enforcement resources that can be better used doing enforcement and or interdiction anywhere else.
Follow up on the 911 thing. Obviously, it was a big disruption at the beginning of the pandemic. I know you had sent something there with people calling the 911 communications center there at the sheriff's office about COVID-related concerns.
Yeah,
I imagine not as much of an issue now, but with regard to just simply calling 911 versus the regular police department, or just calling police department or the sheriff's office for what you guys actually doing, as opposed to something like a COVID. What are some things reminders that you want to get out there about calling 911?
Yeah, so we like to just say if you are in some trouble, harm, or there's some type of safety or security issue or injury, that's when you call 911, right?
Right.
But if there's none of the above, if you're not in any harm, you feel safe and secure when you're making the phone call, or there's no injury involved, please call the non-emergency number for your local law enforcement agency. It'll be handled just as professionally, but it will be put as a non-priority call as opposed to a priority call. So obviously we don't want to tie up the 911 system.
Right.
And as you know, and I pointed out, we have a large influx of summer population here with rentals and tourism, and a lot of them will call 911, sometimes not needed in terms of being a non-emergency issue, but they'll call 911. I mean, if you saw some of the calls, and let me always preface it with this. Our 911 operators do not know when your power is going to be turned back on. We get 911 calls asking, I was in the 911 center last year during a storm, and someone called 911. They wanted to know if, I believe it was Chick-fil-A, if Chick-fil-A had power. We don't know.
We're on it. Let me.
So, I don't know. Do not call 911 to ask about power restoration. The operators are dealing with emergencies, wires down, transformer fires, and trees down into houses and other things. They don't need to be alert and aware of when your power restore is coming. And no, those are all true stories, and those are examples of those are non-emergency calls where you can call another agency. Unfortunately, the state of New Jersey does not have a good 211 system, for that non-emergency information. So things like if you're calling about beach badges or when the lifeguards are on duty or a particular event in the town, call the non-emergency number. Most of it has pre-recorded and will tell you on the pre-recorded message for the non-emergency number. But if you call 911, you'll encounter an operator who obviously wants to deal with the real emergency calls, not the non-emergency calls.
And also, too, a lot of towns on their websites advertise the different events and different things that are going on.
Yep.
People can go to.
Information resources out there.
Exactly. It's out there.
It really does. It becomes a problem. And we see such an influx of 911 calls, again, because our population dramatically goes up along the coastal communities, and especially on weekends.
I want to get your thoughts as well. Obviously, I know your office oversees the OEM there in Monmouth County as well, and it's hard to predict with anything with hurricanes or weather along those lines. But what are some things that you and your office are looking out for with OEM this summer, and some things that you'd like residents to be aware of or prepare for?
Yeah. One, you should always have the app loaded on your phone, some type of weather application that alerts you, right, to thunderstorms or severe storms or tornado warning or watches. That should be on your phone. It's amazing to me how many people will sit in front of their phone and play games, but they won't have an app that will assist them during an actual emergency, right? So please, you can find it. Our Monmouth County Sheriff's Office has an app that has a lot of information when it comes to emergency management and safety. Not just the push notifications if you have some type of thunderstorm or some tornado warning or watch. Those are in there, and those will alert the residents. However, they also have a lot of information about family planning, about what you should do with Ready. You can visit ready.gov, or you can visit our application on the mobile app and prepare, right? We always try to say plan, prepare your family if there's an event. So that means batteries, a little bit of water. Make sure you have a list of your medications and doctors and all that emergency contact information handy and ready to go for yourself. All of that is in the preparatory plans that can be visited online at ready.gov or on any of these applications that I talked about. So, planning and prepare is the big thing, and it really is the most challenging. I don't have to tell you, during Sandy and some of the other storms, challenges are seniors. Obviously, our senior population we're very concerned about, and they present some challenges. And those populations with special needs, which we have the special needs registry that you can sign up at our special needs site so that we have an alert for that address or name. And that is, we'll keep our OEM team well prepared. And those with pets. Anytime we have to evacuate those persons with pets, they don't have the necessary equipment or food that comes along with them, and that makes it a little bit difficult. So there are some challenges that we look at throughout the year. June was Hurricane Awareness month. We had a Hurricane Awareness Week in the beginning of June, and we'll look for the hurricane season all the way through the end of October. But at the end of the day, we know we can get hit just as easily with nor'easters, and a lot of rain causes a lot of flood. And in Monmouth, we have 27 miles of coastline and 4 major rivers that can easily flood and pose a whole host of issues for us. So we want and again, here when we talk about preparedness, Dave and Vin, you should know your evacuation routes, and ours is on the app. It's very easy. We call it Know Your Zone. It's something we adopted after Sandy and Florida. They use it down in Florida, and you simply type in your address on our website or our mobile application, and that will tell you what zone you're in for flood warning and flood mitigation. And if we call for Zone A to evacuate, you're in Zone A and you should prepare to evacuate.
I'm glad you touched on that with the Know Your Zone. That was a big thing you guys rolled out a few years back, and it's important always to be prepared. Knowing where you're at, and if your zone's called, if your zone's in peril, you have to evacuate and get out of there.
Yeah, and we always say you should have that 3 to 5 day of supplies handy in case we do have those power outages. And again, that requires some batteries, some water, some food, or some bars that you have in a go bag for your family that you're ready. And here again, anytime you're up and down the Jersey Shore, please, if you see a storm warning, bring in those coolers, those umbrellas, those beach chairs, and kind of those tables, those plastic tables and chairs that can fly around easily. They all have projectiles, and that can impact your neighbors. So we really encourage our residents to be safe out there when we see the summer storms.
Sheriff Golden, I want to close up with this on a lighter note. Obviously, a lot to do in Monmouth County, a lot of fun to have during the summer months. What are some of the things that you enjoy about summer in Monmouth County?
Well, I got to tell you, I think, and I don't know. I mean, we seem to post up a little bit on social, but I go for bike rides up and down the Jersey Shore, and we run the boardwalks. The weather's been nice. I do my workouts 5:30 every morning, but when we can, we really get out there on the bicycles and ride along Ocean Ave and run the boardwalks because it's a lot of fun. So, again, there's so much to do. And, everyone associates it with the beach. I have to tell you, Monmouth and Ocean have some great parks, golf courses. So, Monmouth, we're really proud of our park system in Monmouth County. So many inland parks with trails that you can explore and visit, and as well as our golf courses. So it's just not about hanging out on the beach itself. Obviously, there's a lot of nightlife and a lot of parks and recreation. We encourage all our visitors to use it. And our residents, I think, just take it for granted here. I'm one of them, but it really is a beautiful place.
Absolutely. Lots to do in the summertime in Monmouth County. And Sheriff, thanks for joining us this morning to discuss summer safety tips on a number of different fronts and some great things to do in Monmouth County as well. Best to you and your department, the OEM team, and law enforcement in Monmouth County this summer.
If I can, Dave and Vin, real quick. I mean, I got to thank all of the first responders out there because everyone that pitches in, EMS, you mentioned emergency management, our fire departments, which are mostly volunteer in Monmouth and Ocean County, and obviously our law enforcement professionals. They keep it safe and secure for our residents and for our visitors, and that's why we have such a successful tourism season in Monmouth and Ocean. So hats off to them for a great job they do. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Definitely a good shout out to all first responders there in Monmouth County, helping keep the community safe and helping everybody at their time of need as well. Like Sheriff Golden here.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone.
Stay well.
Thanks again. That is Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden. More Shore Time with Vin and Dave coming up next.
Hey, it's Chris Carlin from Rutgers Football and 98.7 ESPN in New York, and you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. These fellas are entertaining.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information and start your financial journey with comfort and security today. Shoreline Wealth Management with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you as we wrap up another show. It was another good one today. We just wrapped up a conversation with Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden. Before that, we had Stan Hales and Karen Walzer from the Barnegat Bay Partnership on today. So talking about summer safety from the environment perspective and obviously from a number of other perspectives with Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden from the beaches, obviously with digging, not digging past the knee deep, making sure any umbrellas or chairs or anything you're bringing to the beach is safely secured in the sand so that wind can't blow it anywhere. Obviously, don't go anywhere and swim without a lifeguard present. If you have any questions on the beach, check with the lifeguards and be smart. Especially with ride-sharing services, if you know you're going to go out to a family gathering or a friends gathering where there's going to be drinking involved, find a designated driver. And just be safe all the way around. Fireworks, whatever you're doing your summer, law enforcement, everybody, they want you to have a good time. Have fun this summer, but be safe, be respectful. And then this way, you and everybody else, people you don't know, everybody could have a good time this summer, Dave. I thought the Sheriff Golden brought up a lot of great points.
Well, it's funny what he said, and it's very, very true, is he said if it's anything that goes boom, don't touch it or don't go near it or don't use it. I mean, it's right. It's smart, and just be careful out there. The bottom line is we have there's so many areas, I should say, to have fun and enjoy the summer. And if we all do our part and do it the right way, we're all in good shape. We're all, from the different ride services. If you're going to go out, have too much, there are options for us to get home safely, operating different things, and just being careful out there. And, to enjoy. The other thing he brought up was, consider for what is an emergency call and what's not an emergency call.
Right.
If you're in harm's way or you see something that, could be putting somebody else in harm's way, yes, you call the emergency number. But if it's something like what was the funny thing he said? Somebody called about a fast food restaurant.
If
their power was
going to come back on.
I don't think they're going to send some cars out to check that particular situation. Use your judgment in something like that.
Right. Be smart.
Exactly. And again, also too with these various towns, if it's something about events and different things, check it out online. Go to their websites.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of information there than making a phone call where easily you could have just gotten it at their website.
Right, whether it's Know Your Zone or something else, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office has an app. They have their website and Facebook page. They're very active on social media, so go check out what they got going on the website and social media channels as well, and they'll keep you up to date on everything that you need to know going on in Monmouth County. Dave, we've got another great show coming up next week. We've got two people who will help us, who are and will continue to help save lives in Ocean County.
A lot of safety, a lot of good times, a lot of fun.
Well, talking about summer as well, because, it all relates, but two people doing big things.
Well, you know what's so cool about everything that we've been doing on the show here, and I've enjoyed it very much, is it's like, you know what, there's so much going on, so much to do, and we're putting out good information, the different towns and what's going on and the different events, and there's so many great events. You and I are going to be very busy this summer here, the different places that we want to go, and you know what, everybody does their part. The problems aren't going to be there. That's the best way to look at it. That's the best way to look at it, in my opinion.
Be safe, be smart, be respectful this summer. Everybody could have a good time.
There it is.
We got another great show. Check out our website and our app this week. We'll give you the tease or the reveal of who those guests will be. And then, of course, tune back in next Sunday, 6 to 8 a.m., 94.3 The Point, 105.7 The Hawk. Shore Time with Vin and Dave is back in a week. Dave, have a great Sunday.
You too, my friend.
And a great Sunday to you, and a great week ahead, everybody, as well this week. Enjoy it, and be safe this 4th of July weekend. We'll be joining you next Sunday, July 3rd, so we'll help you get that final couple days in a 4th of July weekend, and hopefully it's a safe and a happy one for everybody. More Short Time with Vin and Dave a week from now. Till then, we're out.
Good things.
Hi, this is Christy Pierce-Rampone, former U.S. women's soccer team captain, Olympic gold medalist, World Cup champion, and Point Borough High School alum. And you're listening to Shore Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. Tune in for some real conversation with Dave and Vin. You don't want to miss this.